Hello and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Liam Matthew Dye, and I'm a professional oil painter based out of Arizona, where I'm currently working primarily in the Western genre, including portraits and landscapes. If you're a current subscriber, I just want to say thank you for supporting me in my journey. Your support means a lot and allows me to continue creating the work that I love and sharing that process with you. It's been a busy last few months as I just got back from the 52nd annual FIPA Museum Western Art Show. It was an amazing experience. I was able to meet some longtime collectors and hear firsthand how my art made you feel. As artists, we spend so much time in the studio, it's easy to forget the impact a painting can have once it leaves our studio, and just hearing those stories and conversations was incredibly rewarding. I also had the opportunity to meet a lot of great artists whose work I have admired for years. One of my favorite parts of doing shows like that is just seeing artwork in person and getting to interact with artists. So whether you're an artist or a collector, I really encourage you to get out to those local shows, especially if you're in the Arizona area. I'd love to meet you. And also, just like it's a good way to create those connections with the artist if you're a collector. And, myself being a collector, of course, I can relate to that. And today I'm going to be working on a cowboy portrait, and I just thought I would talk through, it'd be a good opportunity to talk through my process from start to finish. And so I just wanted to kind of make some call outs here that are really important to me. And so whenever I begin a painting, I try to remind myself that every successful painting starts with a strong foundation. So before I ever think about details, I really want to focus on big shapes, design, value structure, those types of things. And so for this painting, I'm starting with a loose drawing, which you saw in the opening there. I just did a burnt sienna wash. I like that because it gives a warm, transparent color. It's easy to adjust as you paint over it. And so I always tell people, keep that drawing really loose. You really just want the proportions and dimensions to be accurate in the drawing. Don't even worry about details at all, because you really want the once you start laying down the color to kind of represent that portion of the painting. And so just piggybacking off that, values are the foundation of every successful painting. So if value patterning is working from the beginning, the painting has a much better chance of succeeding. So I try to think about where my darkest darks are and the lightest lights. And that will be the larger values, mass work, massing in those shapes, the blocking, and that'll really help you out. And all right. And so as I'm sketching the cowboy, I'm looking for overall silhouette. And so right here, this drawing is a little tighter than I usually work. But that's okay. I did leave it pretty vague. And so now I'm going to be blocking in the color. And so I like to set up a range of base mixtures, which I did there. So now I'm just blocking this in with the dark shadow for under the hat there. This is actually going to be more on the green side because I know in the face I'm going to have a lot of violets and reds, and you can create some contrast just by using a different color. For example, I'm using a green on this hat, but as you'll see as I start blocking in the face, it's going to appear more red and warm. So something I've learned over the years is that color often gets too much attention while value doesn't get enough. The truth is that value creates structure, form, and readability. So make sure your values are solid. That is the foundation of your painting. If your values are working, the painting can often succeed even if the colors are slightly off. But if the values are wrong, even the beautiful colors won't save it. So just keep that in mind. A quote I love from Anders Zorn, he says, "The ability to draw is the ability to see." I believe that applies equally to painting. So much of what we do as artists comes down to observation. So when I'm painting a portrait, I'm painting an eye, a nose, or a mouth, painting shapes of value and color that happen to create the illusion of a portrait of a person. And so that's basically what we're doing here. As I begin blocking the larger masses, I'm focusing on simplicity. So think of it this way. You always want to work large to small, thin to thick, and dark to light. And so right here, I put in these really large, dark wing shapes underneath the cowboy hat, and they're very simple. There's really no details. They're just large shapes. And the other questions you want to be asking yourself is, where's the light source? What is the overall value of the shadow side? Um, what is the overall value of the light side? And that's really important. And that's hard. I think it was hard for me developing as an artist, was figuring out those values, especially once you start laying in color. So if you can get those values down early on, that's really going to make your job a lot easier if you can just block those in. And so, yeah, just kind of again, it's all about simplify, simplify, simplify. The more you can simplify, the stronger the final painting is going to be. So one thing I admire about a lot of great Western painters is their ability to communicate a tremendous amount of information with very few brushstrokes. You can see this in like Maynard Dixon, for example. Um, Edgar Payne. Edgar Payne was great at doing this in his landscape compositions. But they understood that the painting isn't about copying every detail. It's about selecting the details that matter. And if you're looking to paint hyper realistic, almost like photographic, that's kind of a different style. I personally don't paint like that. I don't, or at least I don't try to paint like that. I'm really trying to capture the essence. And one thing I've been practicing lately is painting from memory, just strictly no references. And you'll start to see that develop a lot if you can paint like that. And I always encourage people to paint from memory if you can. It's a really fun way to loosen up your practice and not be so rigid. All right, and then so the other common mistake is making shadows too light or too colorfully too strong. So shadows create contrast in the light areas. So I like to go in pretty dark with my shadows, and you can always lighten those up. So better to go dark at first, and then you can lighten them up. And especially if you're painting like a Western canyon scene, those big shadows you get in the canyons, you can go in dark with those, and then you can fill in all that really cool ambient light in the canyon afterwards. The subtle transitions help guide the viewer's eye to create a more natural feeling. So, something to think about. Another quote I like is from Joaquin Sorolla, and he said, "Paint in patches, not strokes." I think that's excellent advice because it encourages artists to think about larger relationships instead of individual marks. So you really want to get away from drawing as much as you can. That's something I personally struggle with. I love drawing, and drawing it's kind of its own thing. Yes, you want the design to be there, but the finished product, you want it to feel like there's some space in between the brush strokes, if that makes sense. As I continue to refine the portrait, I'm paying close attention to temperature shifts, just making some design choices, maybe the red in his handkerchief against the blue in his shirt. And sometimes chroma can really affect your painting. Like obviously in this piece right here, I think the red and blues are a little too harsh, so I will tone those down. And maybe the sunlight is hitting the cowboy's face in a slightly warmer area than it is in others. So that's where you can shift those colors on the face. Maybe there's reflecting light bouncing into the shadows, introduce different temperatures altogether. So there's a lot of light choices that are moving around, which those problems will typically be solved with when thinking about color in terms of warm or cooler. And one thing I love about painting Western subjects is just the sense of the character. I love doing these cowboy portraits because, you can almost create a story within their face. That you can picture the hard work and just like the hours spent in the saddle out there in the range, working cows and horses, and you can allow that to be expressed in your work. And that's hopefully what I'm doing. I really want people to feel the portrait. And Also, really like strong composition, strong designs. Obviously, Ed Mel is a huge influence to me. So, really just try and make some interesting shapes out of that cloud in the background and pull those shapes out of nature as much as I can. So, very often we'll see a cloud shape and maybe you'll make it your own. Just turn that cloud, make it a little bit different so it fits more your personality. And another cool thing about cowboys is the hat. You can make a lot of character in the hat, just making the brim of the hat a little bent into different shapes. I love doing that. Just makes it That's where you can put your creative license on things. And it doesn't have to be exactly like a cowboy hat in real life. You can make it a little bent up or exaggerate where different shapes are going. I want to communicate mood, personality, and atmosphere through this portrait. So that's something you always want to keep in mind. As I move further into the process, I'll make smaller adjustments right here on the face, adding some highlights and details. I want everything else to support the focal point. And obviously with this one, this mustache is going to be a huge focal point, so just really kind of adding some details there. One of the hardest lessons to learn as a painter is to know when to stop. So it's easy to continue refining every square inch of the canvas, but sometimes additional work actually weakens the painting because you want the painting to feel alive at the end. So be careful as you're working through that. At the end of the day, viewers respond emotionally to your artwork. So it's not really about technical skill. That's something I really saw while I was at the Fippen show, just among collectors and feedback I was getting. So the ability to communicate something beyond words. But I just want to share a few recent pieces that I sold. It was exciting to see paintings find new homes, and I'm incredibly grateful for the collectors that purchased them. If you're interested in purchasing original work, you can visit my website at liammatthew.com, where you can find available paintings. I truly appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these videos, whether you're an artist yourself or simply someone who enjoys collecting art. If you're interested in seeing this finished painting from this video, you can head over to liammatthew.com. You can also purchase original art and prints there. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to leave a comment below. Love to hear your thoughts and answer any questions. Know what you'd like to see in the future. Till next time, happy painting.